John Glover Roberts, Jr., born January 27, 1955, is the 17th and current Chief Justice of the United States. He took his seat on September 29, 2005, having been nominated by President George W. Bush after the death of Chief Justice William Rehnquist. He has been described as having a conservative judicial philosophy in his jurisprudence. Roberts grew up in Northwest Indiana and was educated in private school. He then attended Harvard College and Harvard Law School, where he was a managing editor of the Harvard Law Review. After being admitted to the bar, he served as a law clerk for Judge Henry Friendly and then Rehnquist before taking a position in the Attorney General's office during the Reagan administration. He went on to serve the Reagan administration and the George Bush administration in the Department of Justice and the Office of the White House Counsel, before spending 14 years in private law practice. During this time, he argued 39 cases before the Supreme Court. Notably, he represented 19 states in the United States versus Microsoft. In 2003, Roberts was appointed as a judge of the D.C. Circuit by President George W. Bush. During his 2-year tenure on the D.C. Circuit, Roberts authored 49 opinions, eliciting 2 dissents from other judges and authoring 3 dissents of his own. In 2005, Roberts was nominated to be an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, initially to succeed retiring Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. When Rehnquist died before Roberts' confirmation hearings began, Bush instead nominated Roberts to fill the Chief Justice position.
Whitney v. California all started when Charlotte Whitney, a member of the National Socialist Party, attended a conference of this group in Chicago in 1919. At that time, the group split into 2 distinct organizations. Whitney then became a member of the Communist Labor Party of America, which was headquartered in Oakland, California. She was an active participant in the group's activities and claims she did not intend for the group to be used as an instrument of terrorism. Charlotte Anita Whitney was then persecuted in the Supreme Court of Alameda County under the state's Criminal Syndicalism Act, which prohibits advocating, teaching, or aiding and abetting the commission of crime, sabotage, or unlawful acts of force and violence, or unlawful methods of terrorism as a means of accomplishing a change in the industrial ownership or control of effecting any political change. Charlotte then appealed the ruling of the court, saying it was a violation of the Constitution, specifically her rights to the First and 14th Amendment. The Supreme Court case began on March 18, 1926. In the Supreme Court, Justice Sanford delivered the opinion of the court, which addressed the issue of whether the act violated the 14th Amendment and First Amendment rights of due process, equal protection, and freedom of speech. The court held that the act was not unconstitutional because the clear definition of criminal syndicalism was clear and specific, finding that the act treated all people who violated it equally, and finding that the right to free speech is not an absolute right. Justice Brandeis wrote a concurring opinion saying free speech rights are fundamental, but they are not absolute. Because of this, it is constitutional to place restrictions on an individual's right to exercise his or her freedom of speech, particularly to protect against serious political, economic, or moral injury. However, this restriction may only be invoked when there is a clear and imminent danger of a substantive evil involved, but also recognize that they had yet to establish a standard to determine when a danger is clear and imminent of a substantive evil, or the fact that speech is likely to result in some violence or destruction of property is not enough to justify its suppression. This occurrence makes Whitney v. California one of the most important free speech cases in U.S. history, with Brandeis' opinion promptly being in free speech jurisprudence. The case ended on May 16, 1927, when the Supreme Court decision was to uphold the original ruling and found that the California Act constitutional, saying a state may prohibit the organizing of an association that advocates the commission of crimes or unlawful acts of force to achieve goals that are a danger to general public interest, thus affirming Whitney's conviction and imprisonment.